It is the day everyone has been waiting for in Israel. Its legislature, or the Knesset, is holding its first reading of the very controversial judicial reform bills. This is something that has prompted protests across Israel. Now, ahead of this session, many took to the streets in Jerusalem, waving flags and chanting pro-democracy slogans.
I came here today to join in the demonstration in the hope of saving the Israeli democracy from draconian measures that the opposition that the coalition government wants to implement. Measures and laws that would curtail each and every one of ours basic human rights and civil rights.
These are bills backed by the government. Despite the protests, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has refused to budge. Let's in fact look at some of the proposed changes. Firstly, this bill would limit the Supreme Court's powers to rule against the legislature and the executive. It would mean that the Israeli parliament will have the power to override decisions by the top court. Second, it would take away the Supreme Court's authority to review the legality of basic laws. These are rules that have in fact form the Constitution. Third, the reforms want to change how Supreme Court justices are selected, which means politicians might have decisive powers in appointing judges. People across Israel are livid. They are calling this reform anti-democratic. However, the government is banking on a more secure judicial system.
I came here to say yes to freedom of speech, yes to freedom of protest, but not anarchy. And I came here and we evaluated the security situation to make sure that the police will protect the policy of the minister, the policy of Israel. We're all here for maximum freedom of speech, but without anarchy, without threatening Knesset members, without threatening an autistic child, without threatening citizens, without threatening politicians, without horrifying people.
The opposition has sought to slow down the process. They are relying on parliamentary review sessions and supporting the mass demonstrations across Israel. Even President Isaac Herzog has repeatedly urged the Prime Minister to hold talks with the opposition, but these haven't done much to dent the government's plans. In fact, Netanyahu is looking likely to win a formal consent for these bills. For more on this, let's now go across to my colleague Jody Cohen, who's been closely tracking this story for us. Jody, what is the latest that you have from Israel's Knesset? These bills are being discussed and debated as we speak?
Absolutely. Hi, Neha. So yes, the proceedings began about half an hour ago at about 6:30 local time. We saw some opposition members were flying Israeli flags in the Knesset plenum in protest as the debate began, and some members of parliament and observers were actually removed from the Knesset hall for disturbing the peace. Now, this, of course, follows protests that have been going on all day today, and for the 7th week running now. The ex-military chief, Dan Halutz, said that the government is declaring war on Israel's character and values. The government, of course, insists that the changes restore democracy. The protests today were timed on purpose to coincide with the continuation of the judicial reform bills at the committee stage earlier today, and now in this first reading in Parliament of the first of the bills. It really remains to be seen if these protests that we're seeing and the demonstrations in Parliament, if they're going to have any sort of impact. It's not looking likely at this first reading stage. However, I've been speaking to those close to the coalition and Likud supporters in particular, and remember that this is the party of the Prime Minister. They appear to believe that there will be compromise. Former Likud Justice Minister Dan Meridor has called on Likud supporters to intervene. Prime Minister Netanyahu has called out the thuggish behaviour of some of the protesters. but said he's open to dialogue. But former Defence Minister Gantz has said that if the bill passes, he won't negotiate. Meanwhile, we've heard that Netanyahu and leader of the opposition, Yair Lapid, are meeting this evening for a security briefing, we're being told. And Shin Bet's chief, Ronen Bar, has reportedly asked for a meeting with Lapid about threats against him. In the meantime, President Herzog has indicated that he believes that negotiations can be over in as soon as a few days if the two sides sit down and compromise.
And that really is the million-dollar question, because so far the government has really been digging its heels in despite the nationwide protests. So is there still scope for a compromise? We'll have to wait and see. But Jyoti, thank you so much for all those details.
Thank you.